Permanent Secretary Sandra Jones, Head of the Public Service, members of the head table all, Madam Speaker, Madam President of the Senate, Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Mr. Orville London, Your Worship, the Mayor of the City of Port of Spain, other mayors and councillors, Senator Jennifer Baptiste Primus, Minister of Labour, members of the Cabinet, other members of the House and the Senate, chairmen of boards and members of boards, members of the clergy, business leaders, labor leaders, permanent secretaries, directors and members of boards, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm extremely delighted to be here this morning and wish to thank you all for accepting my invitation to witness this simple but immensely important ceremony. The establishment of the National Tripartite Advisory Council, which I have had the pleasure to inaugurate today, ushers in the dawn of a new era in genuine democratic governance of Trinidad and Tobago. I have listened with deep interest to the meaningful and forthright remarks both from my cabinet colleagues and from the sector leaders. And I am encouraged by your inputs and heartened by the thoughts which you have shared so generously with us today. If ever Trinidad and Tobago needed frank, open, and honest discussion and an unmitigated willingness to take all constructive views and opinions on board as we travel along the path to nation building, that time is now. Our journey to nationhood will forever remain an elusive dream if, as a people, we fail to take advantage of the energy, the intellectualism, the patriotism, the passion and wealth of intelligence which abound in all sectors of our national landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, since assuming office a mere 6 months ago, my administration has been making steady progress. We have been doing so objectively, systematically, and I dare say, quietly. Putting the modalities in place to steer the nation ship of state towards recovery and restoration following a traumatic and painful period of reckless and irresponsible governance. Fired up with boundless faith in sound, decisive, and stable governance, we have set up a number of unique entities and taken a series of bold initiatives in our quest for much improved quality of life for all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We have appointed a substantial number of boards comprising eminently qualified citizens to oversee the successful functioning of our public utilities, statutory boards, and state corporations. We have established a team of highly accomplished professionals to conduct a thorough review and analysis of our healthcare system, with a view to making recommendations to effect overall upgrade in the quality of our healthcare delivery and other services. We have established the Economic Advisory Board to take fullest advantage of the best available inputs on major economic policy and practices. And we have set up the Standing Committee on Energy to guide us meticulously as we seek to navigate the turbulent international waters in monetizing our natural indigenous energy resources, given the prevailing adverse global economic situations. In spite of our recessionary circumstances, we have revised the value-added tax regime, which will see our citizens experiencing higher levels of savings, and more disposable income. These are just a few of our initiatives, but we will continue along this path as the ship of state sails intelligently, caringly, and responsibly forward. Simultaneously, we have devoted a considerable amount of time studying our economic circumstances with a view to knocking into shape the financial midterm review, which we promised to present to the nation following our first 6 months in office. Establishment of the National Tripartite Advisory Council is perhaps the most far-reaching measure that we have undertaken to date. And we anticipate that all of our people will reap abundant fruit from the seeds which we have planted here today. The National Tripartite Advisory Council will have as its main focus the role of providing sound and informed multi-sectoral advice to the government, not only on matters which fall under their terms of reference, but on such matters which warrant their informed and balanced counsel from time to time. And we anticipate and expect that decisions and advice coming to us would be based on sound data. And it's against that background that we have taken steps and are close to establishing the Statistical Institute, which will provide the unbiased and sound database on which discussions can be advanced at the Tripartite Council and across the nation. A major component of the National Tripartite Advisory Council's responsibilities will include facilitation of consultations to engage civil society and the public at large in discussions on issues as may be determined from time to time. The National Tripartite Advisory Council will seek to promote consensus building and democratic involvement among key stakeholders on national developmental issues. The government of Trinidad and Tobago sees this body as reflective of one of the most revolutionary of meaningful changes in democratic governance perspectives with enormous potential for resolution of important economic and social challenges, advancing social and industrial peace and stability, and above all, boosting productivity and economic, social, and cultural progress of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So committed are we to the spirit of tripartism that I want to let you know that in keeping with this very sacred undertaking, I have instructed the Minister of Finance to commence discussions immediately with the National Tripartite Advisory Council in discussing the way forward on certain matters on the midterm financial review, which will be discussed in Parliament following the consultation as mentioned. A date has already been set for discussing in Parliament, so time is of the essence. It is important for me to emphasize that while the esteemed individuals who sit on this advisory council will be expected to represent their views and opinions of their respective organizations, it is the hope of my government that individual demands and stubborn partisanship will be subordinated in favor of the national good and as exigencies will dictate from time to time. In this regard, it is not unreasonable to anticipate that in an environment enamored with the spirit of cooperation, collaboration, and consultation, as are demanded of the National Tripartite Advisory Council, patriotism will triumph over parochialism, and that the welfare and well-being of the many will maintain the ascendancy over the self-interest and personal aggrandizement of the few. It is also useful to note that a critical component of its mandate will incorporate not only advice on matters referred by Cabinet, but that the Council, in the exercise of its own discretion, will be free to present for Cabinet consideration any matter of national interest upon which they believe the government needs to take decisive action one way or the other. The National Tripartite Advisory Council will be supported by a well-staffed secretariat and will be housed in premises currently being prepared for their long and productive occupancy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a momentous day. It is a day for looking into the future and visioning the glorious possibilities that lie ahead for Trinidad and Tobago, in spite of our inadequacies and notwithstanding our current difficult economic circumstances. It is a day for us to focus not only on where we are today, but where we want to be tomorrow. Not only on who we are today, but whom we desire to become tomorrow. Not only on the gifts with which we have been blessed, but on how we can utilize these gifts for the everlasting benefit, not only of our own generation, but also of the many generations that lie ahead. In conclusion, allow me to stress that the National Tripartite Advisory Council is not intended to be a talk shop or a social gathering. This PNM administration is not involved in glossing over the troubling issues which stand in the way of our national progress. This is about finding the most cost-effective and practical solutions to issues of government and governance, clinically designed to give Trinidad and Tobago the best chance of standing shoulder to shoulder once again with the most progressive and influential developing nations of the world. And in short, this is about restoring Trinidad and Tobago to the pride of place which it once enjoyed as one of the most enlightened, progressive, and modern societies for a country of its size on the world stage. Once again, allow me to congratulate the patriots who have now been called to service. I know that you will do justice to the task ahead. I want to thank the business leaders for agreeing to serve. I want to thank the labor leaders for agreeing to serve. And I want to thank my colleagues for representing the government in this tripartite effort. Go forth in the name of the National Tripartite Advisory Council in service to all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention, and may God continue to richly bless all the people of Trinidad and Tobago.